Good morning, everybody. And I'd like to welcome you this morning to the first of our three organic webinars that we have this week. And this morning we are going to focus on organic dairying. And I'm joined this morning by my colleague, I should say, Joe Kelleher. And Joe is down in Limerick and he specialises in organic dairying. And I think what Joe, you're going to do this morning is maybe give answers to questions that people that are thinking of organic dairying, what they have to consider, and maybe an overview of the system.
That's correct, Elaine. Yeah, I have 10 of the most common questions that I seem to get asked, and I think they give a good overview of what organic dairying entails. So that's the approach I'm going to take.
Okay, well, without further ado, I'll hand you over to you, Joe. And all I would say is there's a question function there along the keyboard. Put in your questions, and we'll have a questions and answers round then when Joe finishes his presentation.
Thanks, Elaine. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, perfect. All
Okay.
good.
Good morning, all. I'm going to jump straight in. I've very little by way of introduction. I'm going to jump straight into it. And as I said, the basis of what I'm going to talk about this morning is I'm going to try to attempt to answer these 10 questions. They're the ones that keep cropping up, and I think they will hopefully give many of the answers that are commonly asked. So how many cows can I keep? How much grass can I grow? Both very closely linked. So I'm going to answer those two together. How much milk will my cows produce? Who does our organic dairy production suit? Where can I sell my milk? Is there a market for that milk? Will I get a premium for it? Will I have to straw bed my cows? Will I be allowed to use any veterinary treatments? Is organic dairy farming profitable? Probably one of the big ones. And finally, how do I join? So this is going to guide us through the process. And excuse me this morning, I have a bit of a head cold, so if I'm sounding a bit blocked up, that's the reason why. So to jump straight into it, how many cows can I keep and how much grass can I grow? And I suppose really it should be the other way around. How much grass can I grow and how many cows can I keep? Because the amount of grass you grow is going to determine how many cows you can keep. And I suppose sometimes when we think about organic farming and organic dairy farming, people think we're just forgetting about nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium completely, walking away from it. It doesn't bother us anymore. But it does, because they're three essential elements for a plant to grow. And just because you're going organic doesn't mean we forget about N, P, and K. We still need N, P, and K in an organic system. The big difference is where we're going to get them, because we're looking at biological processes to deliver them a lot of the time, whether it be the nitrogen cycle or utilizing maybe more what's inside the farm gate, trying to get soil health to unlock some of these nutrients that are available in the soil, but they're still vitally important in an organic system. And I suppose this morning I just want to focus maybe a bit more closely on the nitrogen side of things in particular. So if we take a typical paddock on any of your farms out there, and you look at the grass that's in it, and if we look here in the middle, this little square here in the middle, 3% N, all grass contains 3% nitrogen. So it can't grow without nitrogen. It needs nitrogen to grow. So the question is, in an organic system, where are you going to get that nitrogen? So if we're stocked at the upper end of what's allowed in organics is 2 cows to the hectare, which, well, we can't go above 170. So you have 170 kilos of nitrogen, organic nitrogen in slurry coming from those cows at the upper end of it. But also down here, all soil contains background nitrogen. Now it's constantly moving that amount of nitrogen. It's been used by the plant. It's been replenished. There's nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil that are able to fix bacteria. So it's constantly moving, being depleted and replenished, depleted and replenished. And it varies considerably between soil types. And there's surveys done in Teagasc to show a huge range going from between 70 to 220 kilos of nitrogen in soil. There's the slurry, as we've mentioned already, from the cows. Fortunately, or fortunately probably, you can't add any nitrogen via the fertilizer spreader in an organic system. So in conventional farming, this is one of the bigger sources of nitrogen. In organics, we can't go to that source. But one of the biggest sources we have is this fellow over here, clover. And we can get 70 to 150 kilos of nitrogen into our system via clover. So if you look at the kind of the three big ones here on the right-hand side of this, you've clover, can give you up to 150 kilos of nitrogen, white clover. The cows can give you another 150 to 170. The soil can give you maybe as much again. So between these three here, you can get anything up to 500 kilos of nitrogen into your system. So why would you need any of this if we can get this side of it functioning right? So this is where our focus is on organic systems, is if we can get the nitrogen into the ground via the clover or getting the soils healthy, then we can carry stocking rates like what we have here. So how much grass can we grow is the big question. And if we look at a trial that was done in Grange there not so long ago, it wasn't organic, but it was all zero chemical nitrogen. You can see that if we take a perennial ryegrass monoculture, like it'll only grow less than 6 ton as it did in this case. So ryegrass is a fantastic crop to grow if it's fed with huge amounts of nitrogen. But without that added nitrogen, it's not maybe the most ideal crop in an organic situation. Whereas if we look at all the crops underneath, they grew somewhere between 10 to almost 12 ton. So that is saying that we can reliably, and there's a number of other trials around the country that have shown that we can grow this kind of tonnage without chemical nitrogen. So we can reliably grow somewhere between 10 and 12 ton without chemical nitrogen. And if you look at all these different combinations of swards, there's one word that's common to all of them. And if we look, clover, 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 you know, they all have clover. And that's the common denominator here, is there clover is what's driving all of these. It's putting the nitrogen into the ground, taking it out of the atmosphere. The air that we breathe is 78% nitrogen. That clover is taking that out of the atmosphere, putting it into the ground, making it available for our plants to grow. So why would you be going down to the co-op buying it when we can do it this way? So that is no mean feat to achieve that tonnage without chemical nitrogen. But let's see what can it deliver in terms of stocking rate then. And before maybe I go on to that, James Humphreys and his team in Salahead are also doing fantastic trial work on clover. And James and his team have grown in excess of 15 ton of dry matter in a zero chemical nitrogen trial. Now, it's not organic, and they are using chemical phosphorus and chemical potash. But at 15 ton, they're growing similar quantities of grasses to what the top dairy farmers that are spreading heavy amounts of chemical nitrogen are achieving. Excuse me. So like that just probably puts a ceiling of where this thing can actually go. So, and that ceiling is quite high, but we can, so that's, as I said, take out the chemical potash and phosphorus and maybe you're back a ton or two, but still that 11, 12 ton is very, very achievable in an on-farm situation. Okay, so we know now that we can reliably grow somewhere between 10 and 12 ton of grass with appropriate levels of clover into sward. What will that do for us in terms of stocking rate? So if we take that your average dairy cow eats 5.5 ton dry matter per year, so a lighter crossbred cow will eat less, or a high yield and a Holstein will eat more, but let's pick a figure of 5.5, somewhere in the middle. And let's say, for argument's sake, that we're going to give that cow 0.5 ton of concentrate a year. So that means then that cow has to get 5 ton from grass or silage throughout the grazing season in the winter. So 5.5 ton grown, we're going to give her 0.5 ton of concentrate, and we need 5 ton of grass or silage then. Now, all of the grass we eat, it doesn't all end up in the cow. So there's some of it is trampled by the cow into the ground. Leaves die on the grass plant and go back into the ground, maybe topping. So you never all ends up in the cow. So a figure of 80% utilization would be very, very good. So if we use that, and I'm using very round figures here, we'd need to grow somewhere in the region of 6 ton to feed a cow. That's the cow that's eating 5.5 ton and getting 0.5 ton of concentrate. We need 6 ton to feed that cow of grass. So put that into basic sums. If we want to stock at 1 livestock unit per hectare, we need to grow 6 ton. If we want to stock at 1.5 livestock units per hectare, we need to grow 9 ton. And if we want to stock at the upper end of organics, which is 2 livestock units per hectare, we need to go 12 ton. And we've seen from the previous one, if you had good levels of clover across every paddock in the farm, not some of the paddocks or most of the paddocks, you'd have to have it in every paddock in the farm. You could potentially look at going towards this. Now, very few organic farmers would be stocked at 2. The average organic farmer would be stocked here in the middle here, 1.5, with some farmers probably pushing it to 1.7, 1.8, so somewhere in the middle here. So that's where your 10 or 11 ton of grasses coming in. So now you can kind of see where it can go. So that's where I'd be pitching it, is maybe at the 1.5 to start out with if I was someone looking at considering organics. So to answer the first question, how much grass can it grow and how many cows can it keep? With high levels of clover, 10 to 12 ton of grass growth can be achieved. This will support the stocking rate of the upper end of what's allowed of 1.7 to 2. I would aim low for the first few years in organics, somewhere around 1.5 livestock units per hectare. And then as clover becomes established on your farm, the stocking rate could increase in line with it. So that's hopefully question one answered to some degree. Now, the second question. How much milk will my cows produce? And again, it's a fairly common question I get, and sometimes the answer that's thrown to me before we even discuss it is a bit baffling, because some people they think that the minute they go organic, their cows are automatically going to drop in milk because you go organic, and they may drop in milk output for some of the other reasons, but it's not because you went organic. So my answer often to farmers that say their milk is going to drop, so it would be, what if we didn't tell the cows that we're organic? Maybe if we said nothing to them, they mightn't notice and they might milk away. So just because you go organic doesn't mean your milk is going to drop. It can drop for other reasons, which we'll discuss in this next slide. So what are the factors that will cause milk output maybe to fall or increase by converting from conventional to organic? So let's look at the key factors. So management is one of the key ones. If I give the same herd of cows to two farmers, I'm more than likely one farmer is going to get more milk out of those cows than the other farmer. It's just a management factor. You all know that there's differences between farmers, and that management practices can vary. So it is a huge factor that influences milk output. The genetics of the herd can also influence it. So, better high cows can milk for longer, can put more milk in the tank, and can produce more. The health, if there's an underlying health issue in the herd, again, this can impede the milk output of the cows. But if we look at those three, like if you're coming into organics, they're not really going to change, because it's going to be the same manager that's going to be over it. It's the same cows that you're bringing in, so genetics and any health issues, we can treat them in an organic system exactly the same as we can in a conventional system. Yet there can be maybe withdrawal things that have to be taken into consideration, but in general, those three shouldn't influence the milk output by you converting to organics. The factors that may influence is the nutrition side of things. So when we talk about nutrition, we're talking about grass quality, we're talking about silage quality, we're talking about concentrate quantity and quality maybe. So grass quality, I think some people just associate kind of stimmy pastures with kind of overgrown grass as in organics, whereas the truth, the opposite is the truth really, in that I see some fantastic grassland managers in organic systems, and even I would go as far as to say that maybe the grassland management in organic systems is sometimes higher than what you'd see in conventional. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is maybe there's more topping done to control weeds, because we don't have the use of sprays for control weeds. So the likes of docks or thistles, you need to top more frequently. So we do tend to have good quality grazing pastures as a result of that. And two, there's a higher clover content, and we can see what that can do for milk solids from trials below Clonakilty. So the combination of the topping and the clover means that we often have very good quality grazing swards on organic farms, maybe kind of the opposite of what people would expect. And I'm going to cover more on nutrition there in the next slide. The other one, and I have two other ones here that probably fall in under management, but they're probably two that could impact milk output in an organic situation. So I've given them a kind of a bubble of their own here. But lactation length, the number of days a cow is inside in the parlour is one of the biggest impacts on the amount of milk that cow will produce. And in certain situations, which I'll cover in this 2 slides time, that can be shortened. And also the amount of milk fed to calves is the other thing. It won't influence milk output, but it will influence milk sold. So again, I have a slide just to touch on that. So look, nutrition, grass quality, I've just said it there. We should have a higher clover content, and we should have more topping. So grass quality, I would say, is not a big impact on milk output in an organic system. If you're coming into organic and you have a lot of permanent ryegrass swards with very little clover on them, they can stress quite easily, all right. They'll go to seed, they'll bolt if they're not getting nitrogen, and they could deteriorate. But if you have a high clover contents ward, you will find that they will keep the quality pretty much fairly consistently throughout the season. Concentrate, you've two issues with concentrate, with quality and quantity. There can be issues at time of the year, especially in autumn calving herds, trying to get protein. Last year in particular, soya was proven expensive and difficult to source. So there can be issues with the protein sources within the concentrate, maybe changing depending on what's there. So there can be issues there, maybe around the quality of the feeds at times. The grain also, there's the grain often in organics can be a bit smaller, so maybe the ratio of the husk to the starch can be a bit higher. So there is probably trial work to be done there to just examine that. So the quality maybe, but I don't think it's a big impact on milk output either. Maybe in a winter situation, if there's high quantities, it could be more exacerbated than in a spring calving situation. Concentrate quantity then, you look at this deer, it's about 1.5 times more expensive at the moment. So because of that, the farmers tend to feed less of it. If you're feeding less of it, you're going to have less less milk output. So that is probably one of the bigger impacts on milk output, is the fact that there's going to be less concentrate fed, more reliance on grazed grass, which probably will lead to lower milk output. But that may not all be bad either. Silage quality, look, if anything, I think there's more red clover silage on organic dairy farms, and if anything, the silage quality is going to be higher, maybe rather than poorer. I saw an email coming through this morning with 3 samples from an organic farmer, and there were 2 74 DMDs and one with 82 DMD. So anyone would love to have them. So, and with the red clover, you have higher protein. So again, silage quality is not maybe an issue. So the concentrate quantity is probably the one that has the biggest impact there. Lactation length, this is really probably only an issue for spring calvers, but the one company, and I'll come back to the companies and the processors there in a few slides while, but the Little Milk Company only collect from mid-March to late October. So if you are supplying them, and only them, you are going to have a short lactation. But what typically happens with the farmers that are supplying them is they will equally supply their existing conventional co-op for the months of February, first half of March, and maybe November again. And the conventional co-op seem to be happy enough with that arrangement. So that is probably maybe the way around that. But look, short lactation may not be all negative. If we look at the social benefits, the hours worked is going to be down, and the work-life balance is going to be improved. So it may suit some people to have a shorter lactation. Milk fed to calves, then there's a rule in organics that all calves must receive whole milk for the first 90 days of life. So that involves a lot of milk. If you are rearing all the calves, there's a lot of milk goes to calves. So if you take just an example here, if we have 100 cow herd, there's 25 calves kept as replacements. They have to be on milk for the full 90 days. And we've no losses, we'll say, which is optimistic. But the other 75 calves are sold at, we'd say, 45 days. So they're on the milk for half the time as the heifer calves. And they're all getting 60 litres per day. It ends up being 33 or 4,000 litres in total, which is a significant amount of milk. But on the other side of it, then you've a reduced milk replacer bill because of that. So one is partially offset by the other. So summarising question 2, how much milk will my cows produce? Every case is going to be different, so everyone has to kind of figure it out for themselves. But the key factors that I would look at is do you intend reducing the amount of meal you're going to feed? If you do, your milk output is most likely going to reduce. If you have a shorter lactation and you intend supplying certain co-ops without maybe looking at milking at the shoulders of the year, yes, that's going to impact on output. And feeding more milk to calves will reduce the milk being sold, maybe not output, but may be offset by a reduced milk replacer bill. So again, they're the factors that have to be taken into account if you're doing your sums as to how much milk your cows are going to be produce. Question 3. Who does organic dairy production suit? And it can suit a lot of people, and it's sometimes I say it can suit farmers and it can suit farms, and I'll maybe touch on that at the end in the last slide. So look, the farmer number one is the farmer that is already lowly stocked, maybe not in derogation or maybe slightly into derogation, but not much over the 170 kgs of organic nitrogen. Low fertilizer users, and a high clover content. And what I'm finding is the farmers that I'm talking to and the farmers that are looking at going in to organics this autumn, they all have made steps over the last 1, 2, 3 years to reduce the amount of nitrogen, and fairly significant steps to reduce the amount of nitrogen that they're spreading. And this now is just the next further step. So it is good practice to kind of almost be weaning yourself off it prior to making the jump. And these farmers fit this category. There's high clover content on the paddock, so clover is starting to get going as chemical nitrogen is being reduced. Maybe not big meal feeders, and minor adjustments to the stocking rate are required then, because they're most of the way there. The number of cows they have to get rid of might be modest. Second farmer it might suit is the farmer that has expanded since milk quota removed. So someone that was milking 80 cows 10 years ago, and now they're at 120 cows, but the facilities maybe didn't move in line with cow numbers, and now they're inside in the parlour for 3 hours in the morning and another 3 hours in the evening, and they're short in slurry storage, short in cubicles, and there's a big investment required in the yard. And they're looking at this and they're saying, am I going to spend this kind of money, or would I be better off going back to 80 cows and looking at organics? And sometimes when you key in the figures, it ends up being maybe not such a bad option. Third farmer is the farmer that's highly stocked in derogation. 100 cows maybe on 100 acres, for example, and the next thing 50 acres comes up to lease next door. So now what do? Do you go with 150 cows on 150 acres? The investment required for those extra 50 cows is somewhere in the region of about 80,000 a cow. And if you go through it, you'll find it won't be far off of that when you put in parlour, cubicle, slurry storage, extra silage, extra calf housing, extra calving pins. You won't be far off of that figure. Put roadways, paddocks and all that into this 50 acres. So it's a big investment. Or do you look at maybe staying at 100 cows on the 150 acres with very little investment, and looking at the organic option? And it is an option. And the fourth one is the new entrants, and we do actually get a lot of queries from new entrants, and either new entrants outside of organics or beef and tillage farmers within organics looking at going into dairy. And you've going to have lower cows, you've lower stocking rates, you've lower cow purchases. Because you've lower cow purchases, you've less cubicles, less slurry storage, smaller parlour. It's cheaper to get set up, and you might find it easier if you're in the right part of the country to get a co-op to take your milk. There is a few things around purchases of stock maybe that need to be planned if you're in that situation. So just to summarise question 3, who does it suit? It can suit all farms. We can convert any farm in the country into organics. We mightn't be able to convert every farmer. So really, it is farmers that have embraced the idea of organics, that like the idea of maybe farming a bit more environmentally conscious way of farming. And they're already embracing kind of regenerative technologies. They're looking at putting in clovers, multi-species swards, red clovers, things like that. They've been toying around with these ideas, and have reduced their dependency on chemical fertilizers over the last year or two. That's the ideal farmer that it suits. So if you're ticking those boxes, then I think maybe it's worth digging a bit deeper. Question 4, where can I sell my milk? And I suppose it's a big question that's often asked, and an important question to ask. So if you asked me this question a year or two ago, this would have been the answer. There was 5 options. So you had Arabon, Orivo, Glenisk, the Little Milk Company, and the Village Dairy. And last year then Orivo and Arabon kind of merged into, so Arabon was taken over by Orivo. So we've 4 options now. So you have Orivo, Glenisk, Little Milk Company, the Village Dairy, and of these, there's 3 of them do bottle milk, which means they want milk on a 12-month supply basis. So that's Orivo, Glenisk, and the Village Dairy. The Little Milk Company convert all their milk into cheese, so they will take a spring calving system. So there is a co-op there for both systems. And I suppose it's one of the other questions that we get commonly asked, or maybe it's a misconception that's out there, that if I go organic, I have to go autumn calving. You don't. If you supply the Little Milk Company, you don't. They will accept the spring calving system. So there is a co-op there for both systems. I suppose maybe what what dictates who you go to a certain extent is A, your current system, but B, geography plays a big part in it. And these are very, very rough maps, and these are very, very rough lines. So they're just a guide to give you a general idea where these companies operate. So the Little Milk Company generally operates south of that line, and spring calving systems. So if you're a spring calving herd south of that line, then the Little Milk Companies process their milk through Dairy Gold and Mogeely, which is around here, just east of Cork. So you can understand why that's their catchment area. If they're processing the milk here, kind of a 2 hour with a truck drive is kind of their general catchment area. Now, if you're above that line and you have 200 or 300 cows in a spring calving system, I'm sure they would be very interested in talking to you as well. So that's only a very guide, these lines. Again, Glenisk, the Village Dairy, Glenisk are based here around Tullamore, Village Dairy are based here around Carlow. So again, you can see kind of a 2 hour drive in a truck, what the general area takes to. So, maybe some of the western areas just, they could be 3 or 4 hours in a truck, and you can understand maybe why the logistics for these companies sometimes don't stack up if there's only one farmer in a particular area. But if there happen to be 3 or 4 farmers in a particular area outside of that line, again, I think it's worth making a phone call to any of these companies to see. So again, these both want autumn calving system. They will want milk on a 12-month supply basis. And then Orivo, it will typically stick to what is traditionally has been Orivo catchment, or the Arrowbound catchment, which is Connacht, Donegal, and parts of Clare and Tipperary as well. Again, within reason, because as I said, they're only very guidelines. So it's just to give you an idea. So I suppose if you're an autumn calver, you have a good few options. If you're a spring calver and you're north of this line, unfortunately, and we have organic spring calvers north of this line, and they typically tend to be selling their milk to conventional processors, which is allowed. You would like to see that milk maybe ending up in an organic milk pool, but unfortunately, there probably isn't the concentration of them north of this line at the moment to justify sending a lorry from Mogeely up here. But if that changed, another 4, 5, 6 suppliers up in this neck of the woods would probably change the economics of that. So again, I wouldn't rule out anything is possible if it makes sense for the companies. If there's, I suppose you don't have to sell to processors. There's the other point. So direct selling is becoming very popular, especially in organic circles. So it could suit smaller herds maybe, or it doesn't even have to be for smaller herds. I've seen it selling for $3.50 a litre in shops for organic milk. Vending machines maybe might suit as well, but the typical model does seem to be through shops. The likes of organic stores in particular, and the likes of Super Values seem to be quite good to stock it. Just to do quick sums on it, if you 500,000 litres at 15 cents profit, that's 75,000, or if you 50,000 litres at 150 profit is 75,000. So one involves milking 100 cows, getting 5,000 litres. The other one involves milking 10 cows for 5,000 litres. So it's not going to suit a large audience, but it might suit a few people. It does require a very specialized skill set. You're becoming the marketing manager, the sales manager, the quality control manager, you're the delivery truck as well. So you're taking on an awful lot of other roles. It's not going to suit everyone, but it might suit a few people. And it's all about thinking outside the box. So just to summarize the fourth question, where can I sell my milk? So look, geography does tend to dictate your options slightly, as can your system, and there are more options and more outlets for autumn calving herds. There currently are limited outlets for spring calving herds north of the Galway to Dublin Road. Milk can be sold to conventional processors. It is an option. So if you're already spreading very little or no fertilizer, yes, you'll get your check in the post through the organic farming scheme, and you can continue to sell to your existing processor. And direct sales may be an option for a small number of farmers. Question 5, is there a market for my milk? And this is probably one of the biggest questions we get asked across all the sectors in organics. Is there a market for the produce? And I was at the Biofarm conference in Adair last week, and Emmett Doyle, who's the new organic manager in Borbia, gave an excellent presentation of all the work that's going on with Borbia in promoting organic produce across the Irish and European markets. And I have a few of his slides in here, and I think in fairness, you'd be encouraged after listening to him. So look, the first thing I suppose is where most of the milk that is sold organically in Ireland is sold via liquid milk. So it's inside in your shop. So the Glenisc brand is very well known. They sell their milk in a number of the major superstores, the 5 main retailers. But equally, all the 5 retailers have their own brands as well, and that milk would be coming from Orivo most of the time. They do their own label milk for most of the processors. And during the winter months, you will find most of the time that the organic milk is sold out because they can only get about maybe 50% of what's needed. The retailers, there just isn't enough milk there to meet that demand. So there is a market there to be served. I suppose the liquid milk market maybe is a finite market, whereas because you can't really export liquid milk, so it's very much dependent on selling it to the 5 million people that live on this island. So then we have to look at, can we turn it into products that we can export? And the ones that are there at the moment are the cheeses, the yogurts, the ice cream. So Glenisc have their yogurt and their brand very recognizable and is one of the big sellers of organic produce in this country, and is probably one of the main drivers of what's driving the organic dairy side of things, is that yogurt product that they have. But equally, they've tapped into the German and Austrian markets as well with grass-fed yogurt, and that's another option that's achieving a high value market. Little Milk Company's cheese is a great success story, and it's been sold in 15 countries across the world, with France, Germany, and America being the 3 big outlets for that. Gino's Gelato is the village dairy in Carlow, so if you buy any ice cream in Gino's Gelato, you're buying organic ice cream there. So these are some of the things, and I know I heard Minister Hackett there. She was at the Paris Nat Expo trade show 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And one of the things I heard her commenting was that there's a big demand for cheddar cheese. So that's something that we have a strong history and we know how to do that in this country. So maybe there's an opportunity to grow that market as well. There's other areas like infant formula and organic butter as well, which we haven't really fully tapped into. Just to give a sense of what's happening outside in Europe, so the 2 biggest markets in Europe are the German market at almost 16 billion and the French market at nearly 13 billion, and they're 2 huge markets. And even again, like these countries down here are big figures. The Irish market is worth just over 200 million, so we're well down the scale. But I suppose we shouldn't underestimate the amount of organic produce that is being sold in mainland Europe and the amount of consumers out there that are willing to pay a premium for it. So it is a considerable market. And I suppose often we see thrown maybe back there in the media in certain articles that it's falling and it's going down. But if you look, and this is one of Emmett Doyle's slides from last week, yes, it has tapered off a bit in the last year or 2, but you can't ignore what happened in the 20 years before that. It has grown hugely at about 9% year-on-year growth, which is phenomenal growth across a lot of Europe. So yes, there's been a slight slowdown, but it's slowed down at a very high level. So there still is a huge demand out there for organic produce and in mainland Europe. And starting last week, Borbia have launched the first ever promotional campaign of organic produce in Ireland. And these are some of the ads that hopefully you will see between here and Christmas, appearing on newspapers and radios and buses and billboards. I think they're on. I don't think they're on television, but they're on a lot of the other social media, all the other outlets. So again, it's just making people aware, trying to get people to consider buying more organic produce as part of their weekly shop. And I suppose if we look at the stats of what actually, again, all this is taken from Emmett's presentation last week from Borbia. But if you look at the summary of what Emmett had to say there, they did a survey of 2,500 consumers started this year, and it was encouraging to see what the results were. But 43% of consumers buy organic food weekly. There's another 45% intend to buy more organic in the future, and there's 50% who intend to maintain their spend. So if you add those two together, there's 95% of consumers that either going to buy more or maintain their spend. So it can only go upwards. 46% of consumers are willing to pay a 15% premium, and 56% of 18 to 44-year-olds are willing to pay a premium. So the younger category shopper are more likely to pay more, buy more and pay more for organic, and they're going to be the consumers into the future. So it's all pointing to a growing organic market. So I suppose to answer question 5, is there a market for my milk? There are huge opportunities on our doorstep in mainland Europe that present huge market opportunities that maybe we haven't fully tapped into yet. There's a major increase in organic marketing happening at the moment, both within Ireland and the EU by Borbia. There's a EU marketing campaign for beef and lamb happening in the springtime across a lot of the main European countries. The Irish organic market is growing, and with continued market promotion will continue to grow. So it is a growing market and will continue to grow. Okay, question 6. The big question, I suppose, that's often asked: will I get a premium for my milk? And often maybe the hardest one to answer. So let's look at milk price over the last 5 years and see what has happened. So yellow line here at the top is the Glenisc milk price over the last 5 years, and this is the farm gate milk price now is what I'm talking. So it's excluding VAT and excluding transport costs. So it's what the farmer would have been receiving in their milk check. The little milk company is the line in the middle, and the green one is the conventional price. So like if you look here in 2019 to 2020, and I could roll that back 3, 4, 5 years, and those lines wouldn't have changed an awful lot. There was a difference, or a premium, if you want to call it, of around 9 cents. When I averaged the two, and I've picked Glenisc and Little Milk Company. Glenisc are the largest processor of autumn calving milk, and the Milk Company are the biggest processor of spring calving, and I've averaged their prices. And if you average their prices compared to conventional prices, there was a premium there of about 9 cents 2020, and go back a number of years before that. In the past 3 years, you can see that conventional milk has taken a huge spike, and that gap has closed 2.6 cents of a premium over that 3-year average, 2021, 2022, and 2023. And this is often thrown as a criticism against organic, but I suppose you have to look at the graph and look at what happened to organic milk in that price as well. Organic went up as well. So in real terms, like organic price and the organic farmers got an increase in milk price as well. So and maybe we're insulated from the fertilizer price increase. So it's while it's often depicted as a bad news story, it's more what happened in conventional maybe going really well, maybe rather than anything bad happening in organics. So I suppose the big question then that everyone asks is, what's going to happen next? And what about next year's price? And I suppose, unfortunately, I don't have one of these. If I did, to be great, I'd better give you all the answer. But I suppose we can make a stab and see, and like it's only you can chat about this, but what will happen in 2024 in milk price? And like, if we look, I put this price here for 2023 for conventional, which is 50 cents a litre, and that's 50 cents because there was an awful lot of milk sold the first half of this year at high milk prices for conventional farmers. Base price now is down around 33, 34. So there's a fair chance that conventional milk price is probably going to end up somewhere around 40 cents. These could be famous last words. There's forward contracts there being sold by fixed mixed price contracts for like the Kerry Group there in mid to late 30s. So it'll probably, they often end up being near enough the markets to guide in milk price. So give or take a few cents up or down, you'd say conventional is probably going to park in around somewhere around 40 cents next year. That a lot of guesswork in that now. No one can be 100% sure. The organic milk price, so the likes of Glenisc have set their autumn milk price at 70 cents minus 5 cents transport cost. So it works out about 65 cents farm gate price there for November up to into March. Revo and the Village Dairy would be probably even stronger than that. So you know that the organic price already for the first 3 months of 2024, we know what it is, so that's going to have an impact. We don't still know what the summer price is. So if they held, that's what they'd be. But even if they drop down to the next line here, what we will see is that premium that was here maybe starting to re-emerge again here. As I said, the markets do seem to be strong out there at the moment for organic produce. Talking to the processors, there seems to be demand for the product. As I said, the likes of the cheese in particular seems to be strong demand. So maybe that's been optimistic, saying that they'll hold, but even allow them drop down to the next line, as I said, you're back to a premium of somewhere between 5 to 10 cents a litre. But again, look, I'm very much using this here. This is not based on any major science. It's purely guesswork as to what those prices are. So it's anyone's guess. Look, two big question marks over it, where it's going to be, but the indications would suggest that the premium is going to increase from next year on again. So will I get a premium? The difference between conventional milk prices and organic have decreased over the past 3 years, but organic price has actually risen over this time frame as well. So it isn't that organic went down, it's just that conventional rose at an extraordinarily rapid pace. The difference on the premium looks as if it's going to appear again and maybe get widen again from next year on. And hopefully from 2024 onwards, we will see a more significant premium. Question 7. Will I have to straw bed my cows? Again, there's some people have this misconception that you have to get rid of all your cubicles and use straw bedded. That's not the case, as I'll hopefully explain here. So the first thing we need to look at is just this chart is fairly common chart inside the organic standards, and it's the amount of indoor space available inside in sheds for animals. And if we look at the dairy cow, so the dairy cow needs 6 meters squared inside in the shed. And sorry, no, I don't know if this bar here at the bottom is blocking the bottom. So it needs 6, that's the total indoor area, and each dairy cow needs 6 meters squared. And then this paragraph down here says that at least half of that must be a solid floor construction. That is not of slatted or gridded construction. So what that means is it has to be solid floor. So it can be a cubicle bed or it can be a straw bedded shed is what a solid floor construction is. So if the cow needs 6 meters squared, it needs 3 meters squared of a minimum of a solid floor lying area. So if it is cubicles, there has to be 3 meters squared of cubicles available per dairy cow in the shed. Now, each individual cubicle has to be more than 2.62 meters squared, which is about 7.5 foot by 3 foot 10 cubicle. So it's a big cubicle. So there might be modification needed for cubicles in certain cases. And I suppose this line then is fairly important line. So if you have a concrete-based cubicles, they are allowed, provided they are fitted with deep layered bedding or other cushion materials. So if it's concrete only, you have to have a deep layer of straw really on it. And if you have a mat on it, then something like sawdust will do. And I have 3 pictures here, I think, which will hopefully, you have 3 options in a dairy setting to explain what is allowed. So here's option 1, where you have a cubicle mat, and this is an organic farmer, and you can see he's spreading the shavings there, and he's lime already on it, and that's the ideal scenario as to what you would see in an organic setting. So that's option 1, a mat with untreated shavings, must be pointed out, and cubicle lime. Option 2 then, and this was a farmer I was only in the past month who had this, which I thought was a non-organic farmer, but looking at getting into organics. And he had a 4 by 3 inch curb at the back of the cubicles, and you spread him with straw. And he was doing this on his own bat out of welfare for the cows, and had been doing it for a number of years, and is now thinking of going into organics. But that is absolutely perfect in an organic setting, what he is doing there. And the third option is this one, where you bed the cows in an open bedded, straw bedded area like that, which I suppose is probably the Rolls Royce in terms of animal welfare, but equally in terms of the nutrients that you get out of that and what that farm manure can do in terms of soil biology and soil health. The benefits of that shouldn't be underestimated either. But look, either of them will work in an organic setting. So shavings on top of a mat, straw on top of concrete, or the straw bedded lie down area. Yeah, they're your 3 options. Question 8. Will I be allowed to use any veterinary treatments? And again, people have this misconception, if I go organic, everything is off, but that's not the case. Like the key thing in organics is that the welfare of the animal is the #1 priority. And like the exact wording from the organic standards is, disease shall be treated immediately to avoid the suffering of the animal. So that means that if an animal needs a particular product to treat a particular ailment, that animal gets that. It's the key thing here is that the vet has to okay everything. So if the vet says an animal needs a particular antibiotic, that animal gets that antibiotic. And we use the four-step process within organics is the prevent, analyze, intervene, and withdraw. So prevent is, using clean grazing system techniques, try rotate the silage ground so that you always have clean pastures coming in. Maybe like some multi-species swarts have anthelmintic benefits, things like that. Analyze the fecal egg count test is huge. Like if you have a bunch of heifers and they're coughing, don't assume that it's lungworm you have. Do a fecal egg test. See is there actually lungworm there. It could very well be a respiratory disease. It could be IBR. It could be one of those things. So do a fecal egg test. They're only 50 quid. They're not expensive in the overall scale of things, and you'll save that a couple of times over on what you'll spend on the dose. So analyze before you intervene, and intervene then is step 3. If you know what the problem is, then you can intervene in consultation with your vet to make sure you're doing the right intervention. And then finally, the withdrawal is the final part. And with withdrawal, it's typically doubled for most products. So you're doubling the withdrawal. So I suppose you just have to be careful of the sale state of animals and things like that if you are using certain products. And there's also a limit on the number of treatments animals can get over a 12-month period. So animals for meat consumption can get 1 course of antibiotics over 12 months. Animals for breeding, such as your dairy cows, can get 2 courses of antibiotics within 12 months. For mastitis, you're allowed an additional 2 courses of antibiotics within 12 months. So these 2 courses of antibiotics don't count as these 2. So it's additional. Now look, if a cow is using that, I think it's time she packed her bag in a way, maybe if she's needing that amount of treatment. And if you're exceeding these limits, the organic status is taken away from the animal, and typically, look, that animal packs its bags and leaves the farm. But as I say, look, if you're up around here, there's a problem with the animal anyway, whether you're organic or not. I think you'd be questioning, is it worth keeping that cow? She's having all these health issues. Just a few other points for calves in particular, that if you are dehorning and castrating in particular, you must get a permission every year. You must apply to your certification body at the start of every year. It's a standard form sent off start of every year. You will get your permission, but you have to apply for permission at the start of each year to do those. Question 9, the big question. Is it profitable? So I've taken a spring calving scenario here just to explain, and I've a huge number of assumptions here, and this is no one's farm, so it could be anyone's farm, or it could be nobody's farm. So what I'm really trying to focus here is how I've gone through this process. So maybe rather than focus on the figures, I want you maybe to look at the process, and hopefully it'll give you a guide as to how you can look at what would the likely impact be for you to convert your farm. So I've based these on the National Farm Survey average farm in 2022. So the average farm in 2022 had 93 cows, they had 43 other livestock units, so they had 136 total and 67 hectares of land, which meant they were just in derogation, 2.3 livestock units per hectare. If that farmer was to go organic, I would probably be recommending something like this: drop to 75 cows, drop the other livestock units or the younger stock to 25, and you're gone to 100 livestock units on 67 hectares, which is 1.5 livestock units per hectare. So what I've attempted to do here is, what is the impact on profitability going to be for this farmer? And you will see here maybe how it pans out. So just a few assumptions. First of all, the average farmer last year fed 1.2 ton a meal. I've said that we're going to drop that to 700 kilos per cow in an organic system. I'm assuming a milk response of 1-to-1, so I'm being generous to the conventional here, maybe harsh on the organic. So I'm just going to presume that the organic cow is going to produce 500 litres less milk as a result of this. 500 kilos less meal, 500 litres less milk in the tank is what I'm saying across the year. I'm saying there's an additional 200 litres of milk per cow is fed to calves, but there was also €3,000 of milk fertilizer being bought on the farm as well, is what I'm saying. So one is slightly offsetting the other. I'm putting in a premium of 5 cents for organic milk. We saw that it was 9 cents up to 3 years ago, and now it's back to nearer to 3. And I'm saying hopefully it will increase from next year on. So I'm using 5, which again I think is conservative enough. and I'm saying that half the meal that the organic dairy farmer is being purchased directly from an organic tillage farm, which we have a lot of trade between the existing organic tillage farmer and the organic dairy farmers. There's a lot of trade moving over, and we have a good network. The Department of Agriculture have the Organic Trading Hub set up, which is a great resource now. And if any of you Google that, just put Organic Trading Hub into Google, it'll take you in there, put in feed, and you'll see that there's a lot of options in there. So it is possible to get feed, and you will get them at fairly decent prices. Milk sales. So the first thing, let's look at milk sales. So we're losing 500 litres. So the average cow at the moment is producing roughly around 5,700 litres. We're going to lose 500 now because we fed a half a tonne less concentrate, and we're going to lose another 200 because we're feeding it to calves. So it's not being sold to the co-op. So we've 5,700 versus 5,000 litres sold. 93 cows here, and we've cut back to 75 cows here. So we were selling 530,000 litres here, and we're selling 375,000 litres here. So there's about 165,000 litres less going out the gate. Get paid 40 cents here, 45 cents here. You can argue this could be 45, this could be 50, but look, it's 5 cents is the gap. That's the key bit rather than focus on the individual prices. So you can see 212,000 of a milk check here versus almost 169 here. So our milk check is down by 43,000. So it's not a great start, is it? And what I find is anyone that looks at organic, they get to this sum and they stop here, and that's where it stops. But I suppose, and if anyone is thinking of tuning out, I would say just stay tuned for another bit, because this is only part of the story. Yes, it's a big dent on a milk check and it's a big drop, but there's more to it than this. So that's milk sales down 43,000. So let's look at the two big costs then, the meal and the fertilizer costs. So this farmer in their current system, again, has the 93 cows. They're feeding 1.2 tonne, which is the national average. So it works out at 112 tonne of meal going in currently. I put a price of 375 on that. Average dairy prices probably closer to 400 at the moment, dairy ration prices. But let's be favourable to the current system. So 375 gives a meal spend of 42,000 in this situation. In the organic system now, we've only 75 cows to feed. We said we dropped the meal by 500 kilos, so we're giving them 0.7 of a tonne, which is 53 tonne. So we've pretty much halved the amount of meal been fed, but we're going to be paying €600 a tonne for it. So we're going to buy half it off a miller for about 700, and we're going to buy half it off an organic tillage farm for around 500. So averaging out around 600, give or take, thereabouts. So the total meal spent here is almost 32,000. So about 10,000 less spent on meal as a result of that. Fertilizer then, as you see, 18,000, almost 19,000. And look, that's based on the National Farm Survey had the figure for fertilizer for 2022 at 31,300, I think it was. And I've just taken that figure for 2023. We don't know yet what that's actually worked out, but I've taken that it'll be 60%. The 2023 fertilizer bill will be 60% of what the 2022 bill was, and that's where I came up with that figure. I've put in €2,000 for organic to spread 20% of the farm with ground rock phosphate and 20% of the farm with sulphate of potash, which will roughly work out at about €1,000 to cover each. So the total savings on reduced meal and fertilizer then is 27,000. So we've lost 43,000 on the milk check, but we're after pulling back 27,000 of it there by reducing the meal and fertilizer costs. Then there's the other variable costs. So like the other variable costs, and you'll see it down here at the bottom of the screen, like you've contractor, which is a huge bill, veterinary, AI, breeding, parlour running costs, reseeding, etc. And look, the reality is the more cows you have and the more livestock numbers you have, the more of these costs you have. They're variable, so as stock numbers move up, these costs move up. You have more silage. For more stock, you have more silage, you have more slurry, it all moves up. Same with the vet bill is, again, the herd test is going to be higher. AI, the more cows you have to AI, the more bigger the AI bill. So they do tend to move fairly well in line with numbers. So in the current system, there's 136 livestock units, and according to the National Farm Survey, the other variable costs outside of feed and fertiliser are about 49,000. So I've reduced that in line with stock numbers down to 36,000. I added back a few costs in because look, I've allowed 2,000 extra for extra straw if we are bedding or sawdust if you're putting it on cubicles. I've allowed €1,000 for extra paperwork because you will have license fees and things like that. And I've knocked off €3,000 of a saving on the milk replacer. So when you mix all that into the mix, you're talking about that there's another saving there of 12 or 13,000 on the other variable costs. I haven't gone near fixed costs because I'm assuming fixed costs remain fixed costs. So just because you are organic, the land lease charge should probably remain the same. Machinery running should remain the same. Insurance remain the same. Car SB phone, you could argue ESB should drop if we're milking less cows, cooling less milk, so on. But for the purpose of this, I've said fixed costs remain fixed. The final element that has to be taken into account here is the organic farming scheme. So for dairy farmers that are thinking about going organic, you're going to get €350 in year 1 and 2, and you're going to get €300 in years 3 and 5, up to 70 hectares. And then there's also this participation payment to cover the kind of license and fee and so on. So you get €2,000 in the first year, €1,400 after that. So if we take the case study that I'm doing here of the national average dairy farmer with 67 hectares, he or she's going to get 25,500 year 1, almost 25,000 year 2, and 21,500 in years 3, 4, and 5. Sorry, I have a typo there. That should be 3, 4, and 5, not 3, 3, and 3. The total received over the 5 years is almost 115,000 in that case. So for the purpose of this, we'll take what the fully converted rate to 21,500. So let's throw it all into the pot and see what it spits out. So we're down 43,000 in milk sales, but we've also reduced the feed and fertiliser bill by 27,000. We've reduced the spend on the other variable costs, like the contractor, the AI, and so on, by almost 13,000. And we've got a payment of 21,500 via the organic farming scheme payment. So the total increase is about 18,000. So you could say that the milk sales was offset by the cost reductions, and you get to keep the organic farming payment for yourself. There or thereabouts. But I suppose the key thing here is this is a national average. It might represent some people or it might represent no one. So the key thing is for everyone to do their own sums because it's going to be different for everyone. And if anyone wants me to make a stab at helping them with their sums, I'm available to do that also. And I'll give my email there at the end of the presentation. But I suppose financial benefits are only part of it. There are other benefits. So there's the social benefits, which really is work-life balance if we look at it from that point of view. So we're going to be milking 18 cows less. So we've less cubicles, less storage, less time in the milking parlours, 2 rows less of cows for most people, less labour requirement for you if you're in the parlour for less, and less time feeding cows and less time calving cows and so on. So there are overall improved social benefits for you as a farmer by having a less pressurised system. We know from work that was done previously in Trinity College by Eileen Power and Jane Stout that organic dairy farmers can have up to 30% more biodiversity than their conventional colleagues. And our early work would show that the greenhouse gas emissions on organic farms can be reduced by about 40%. It's very, very rough data at the moment, but roughly by about 40% reduction. And half of that is got through eliminating the chemical nitrogen, and the other half is by reduced stock numbers. Again, it's going to vary between farms. We had a walk in Wexford there during the summer, and the farm in question was 25% reduction. So it's still quite a significant reduction, but that's where the greenhouse gas emissions reductions could fit. So, you know, you're winning on social, economic, and environmental fronts. So there's a lot to say for it. So if you think that it could be an option, the question is, how do I join? So the first thing, you have to sign up with one of the certification bodies. There's 2 of them in the country, the IOA or the Organic Trust. That's their contact details. Next thing, you have to apply to the Department of Agriculture to get for the organic farming scheme, which is what delivers you the check in the post. And the closing date for that is the 8th of December. So anyone that is thinking about it for this autumn, you need to act fast because the 8th of December is upon us. So it's only 3 weeks away. So you have 3 weeks to apply to the certification body with the conversion plan, animal health plan and all that goes with it, and then apply for this. There's 2 other steps that you have a bit more time with. Third step is you have to make changes to your single farm payment in next spring when it comes out, just to let the department know that you are gone organic. And step 4 is you have to do a 25-hour course, which has to be done by October of next year. So the steps 3 and 4, you have a bit of time with, but steps 1 and 2, if you're thinking of it, have to be done sooner rather than later. There's 2 other webinars happening this week that might be of interest to some of you. So tomorrow at the same time, we have a tillage webinar, which my colleague Martin Burke will be speaking on. And if there's dairy farmers that want to learn more about how tillage crops are grown, you might be interested in growing your own crops, it'd be worth tuning in. And our colleague William Deasy is going to be leading an organic horticulture webinar on Thursday. So they may be of interest to some of you to tune into those as well at the same time. So that's it. Questions from anyone, and that's my email address if anyone wants to contact me with any questions after today. So Elaine, I'm going to hand back to you.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much for that. A lot of more than 10 questions answered there, Joe. But thank you very much for that. Maybe just, as I said, if people want to put into the chat, put in the question answer function there, put in your questions there. Maybe just from my own point of view, from what you said, maybe you spoke a lot about clover and nitrogen. What about the other P and the K, the phosphorus and the potash? How important are they, and how can an organic dairy farmer get them into the system?
Yeah, so it's an important question actually, and I suppose the first thing is, as I said at the start, we're looking at stocking rates of 1.5 to 2 maybe, and typically so it's lower than your conventional counterparts, and we're looking at growing 10 to 12 ton of grass. So a high index 2, first of all, for phosphorus in particular, will grow that quantity of grass. So maybe we don't need to be going towards the index 3. We don't want it to be index 1. We don't want to be low index 2, but we want to be somewhere around 5 to 6 parts per million, ideally, would be what we'd want. To get to that, if you can get the soil biology working, get the earthworm activity going, you can actually unlock a lot of the phosphorus that's tied up in our soils. And again, that farm walk in Wexford we heard, he moved all his soils up an index without applying any phosphorus, which we think was due to the increased earthworm activity, which unlocked a huge amount of phosphorus in his soils. So there is natural ways of doing it. If you've indexed 2 soils and they're not moving, or index 1 soils and they're not moving, there is P products we can buy. So we can buy ground rock phosphate, but there are other products such as dairy sludge, which most of you, because your dairy farmers are maybe not too far away from a dairy processing plant, might be able to access dairy sludge, which is a great source of phosphorus on the farm. For the potash, straw is a great source, and anyone that is bedding their cows, particularly in straw bedding, they will use probably more straw than they need just to get the potash into the farm manure heap to get it back out onto the ground. But look, it's back to the basics as well, putting the slurry out in the fields that are low, putting the farmyard manure out in the fields that are low, are the key things. So that's the key points, I suppose, with P and K.
Okay, and maybe a question that we always get to, and maybe in relation to clover and bloat. Is bloat an issue when you're talking about having very good levels like you are in an organic dairy situation?
I'm in this job dealing with organic dairy farmers 2.5 years now at this stage, and I've yet to meet an organic dairy farmer that has told me they've lost a cow to bloat. There's a couple of trains of thought out there. Some farmers will feel that bloat maybe is due more to a high level of nitrogen in the grass. And when you have high levels of nitrogen in a clover sward combined with the fertilizer spreader, maybe you're exacerbating the problem maybe a bit more. I don't think we've any research to back that theory up, but it's a train of thought that's out there amongst farmers. The other thing is then that we've young stock on organic farms that are grown up on a farm that are used to clover in their diet from a very early age, and they feel maybe that the gut is more accustomed to the clover, and the bacteria required to break down the clover in the gut is developed from a young age within the animal, and they're just when they meet high levels of clover as an adult, the gut is more able to deal with it. Again, as I say, we would have very little science maybe to back up those theories, but that would be the farmer's theory on the ground out there as regards to bloat.
Okay, and moving on now into the question answers from our viewers. First question, price. Which processors pay flat rate and which pay on constitutes, and what is winter milk paid on?
Yeah, good question that I forgot to cover actually. So the flat rate is all the autumn calving processors. So Teagasc, Revo, and the Village Dairy all pay a flat rate price, and the Little Milk Company pay a base price plus A plus B plus C, A plus B minus C, the same as all the conventional co-ops do. So you're paid in your solids at 3.3 plus 3.6. I'm not sure I understand what the last part of that question is and what is milk or milk paid on. But maybe it's what's the constituents. It's 3.6, 3.3 and 3.6, I suppose is the question.
And moving on now to out in the shed. Somebody has a shed that has 32 cubicles and they measure 2.65 meters squared. So they're wondering, how do they make up that 0.35? Do they leave extra cubicles, or do they provide an extra shed which is bedded to bring up to the shortfall? So what is your opinion on that there, Joe?
Well, the good news is that the minimum cubicle size is 2.62. So you're bang on, you're just over the 2.62. So you actually won't have anything to do with the individual cubicles, but you will have to leave to make up the 3 meter squared. You will have to have surplus cubicles in the house. So if there's 32 cubicles, you might be looking at housing 28 cows, something like that, in the 32 cubicles to make up that. Each cow has to have 3 meters squared available in the house of lying area. So tot up the 32 by 2.65 and divide it by the 3, and that'll tell you how many cows you can keep in that shed.
Okay, and then maybe just somebody looking to convert. You mentioned there dairy sludge. So in an organic situation, can dairy sludge be used? And I presume that's conventional dairy sludge being asked
yes,
about there.
yeah. So it can be used. The processors have to get it cleared by the certification bodies that they can be used, but it can be used. The processors are typically looking for farmers that can take it, that have nutrient management plans, say they can take it in, and the organic farmers typically may have low P fields, so it's a very good match for both parties. You have to have soil samples to show that you are at index 1 or index 2 to allow you to bring it in, and you have to have a nutrient management plan to say that you can bring it in, but it can be brought in. I suppose the other thing just needs to be factored that the co-ops would obviously rather it be near, that you're near the factory, so people within 10, 15 kilometers are going to find it easier to get it than people that are outside of that radius.
And what about, Joe, wood chip? Can wood chip from tree surgeons be used for bedding?
Again, anything like that, I would say run it by your organic certification body. There shouldn't be an issue with wood chip from tree surgeon because there's nothing been added to it. It's probably just hedges and trees that have been chipped up, so it's a very natural source. It's fantastic for mixing with farm manure if you can bring it in, but just check with your certification body before you bring anything like that. If it's wood chip that's coming in from recycled glass and windows and doors and things like that, I'd be slow about bringing that in. Whereas if it's clean wood chip, there shouldn't be an issue. But again, just check with your certification body before you bring anything like that.
I suppose just somebody commented here about the dairy sludge, and I think he covered it there. If your soil index is 3 or 4, is dairy sludge permitted?
No, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
And question there about calves. How soon can calves be sold?
Same rules apply to organic as they apply to conventional in terms of how soon they can be sold. They just have to be on whole milk. If they're being sold into conventional market, look, unfortunately, they're dropped out of the organic system. But the same rules apply from the date of sale.
Okay, and I think that's all the questions. That just shows you answered a lot of questions in your talk there, Joe. So that's all the questions we have here this morning on organic dairying. So look, as you said, you've put your email address there. If anybody wants maybe to talk, as say offline, contact yourself and you'd be happy to have the chat with them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, for myself and Joe, and a shout out to Martin, who is working behind the scenes to keep us up and running for the past hour or so. Thank you, and thank you for joining us. And as Joe said, maybe some of you might be interested in hearing about organic tillage, and we'll have that as our topic tomorrow morning, same time, same place at 11 o'clock. And until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.